Here at Be Clever with Your Cash, we get asked a lot of questions about ISAs. And one of the most common ones is what happens when you accidentally overpay your ISA and what you need to do to sort the problem out. Now, this seems to be a bit of a cause for concern, but there's no need to worry. I'm here to explain exactly what to do and what the potential consequences are, which you can hopefully avoid if you spot the mistake early. But let's first quickly look at the ISA allowance and how it works. Now, when we talk about the ISA allowance, we're referring to how much money you can pay into your ISA or ISAs every tax year. Currently, it's £20,000, and you can split this how you want among different types of ISA. But while I say this, there's also a separate cap for the lifetime ISA, which is £4,000 a year, which also counts towards your allowance. So if we look at an example, you'd be allowed to put £8,000 into a cash ISA, £8,000 into a stocks and shares ISA, and £4,000 into a lifetime ISA between April the 6th and April the 5th. Now, it's worth noting that if you've opened a junior ISA for your child, they have their own £9,000 a year allowance, which doesn't have any impact on yours. And as soon as the new tax year starts, your allowance resets. So if you've not used it, you can't carry it over. So, what are the consequences of overpaying your ISA? Well, as we know, the main draw of using an ISA is the tax benefit. But if you pay too much into your ISA, any money you contribute that's over the £20,000 limit will not be shielded from tax. So any interest you've made on that overpayment into a cash ISA may be seen as taxable income if it's outside of your personal savings allowance. Likewise, any growth or dividends in a stocks and shares ISA could be taxed if they go over your other investing tax-free allowances, like your dividend and capital gains allowances. We've got loads more information about saving and investing allowances over on becleverwithyourcash.com. Now, you might also be wondering if you'll face any other penalties for making this mistake, but that's not the case. You won't be fined or charged. But you may have to fork out for tax, and if your overpayment is refunded, you'll lose any gains you've made. So, how can you end up overpaying too much into your ISA in the first place? It's actually quite an easy mistake to make. If you've got multiple ISAs that you're contributing to, it's not difficult to lose track of what money is going where, especially if it's over several tax years. And new rules introduced in April 2024 have made the ISA environment a bit more complicated. One of the new rules is that you can open and pay into as many ISAs of the same type as you like in the same year. Before this, you could only pay into one type of the same ISA. So now you can have lots more accounts and it can get confusing. What's more is that your different ISA providers don't necessarily know what other ISAs you have and how much you're paying into each one. So they could be showing you incorrect information about how much of your allowance you've used up. They likely only know what you've added to the account you hold with them and probably not what you've added to your ISA with a different provider. For example, if you've paid, say, £6,000 into a stocks and shares ISA with one provider and £14,000 into a cash ISA with another, your stocks and shares ISA provider will probably still say you've got £14,000 of your allowance remaining for that year. So don't trust it. If you're only paying into one ISA or several ISAs with the one provider, it's a lot harder to overpay as some providers limit your contributions. But let's not jump the gun. If you're worried you've gone over your ISA allowance, take a step back and check if that's actually the case. Firstly, ISA transfers don't count towards your allowance. So if you've got money from previous tax years in different ISA accounts, you can transfer it to other providers without it eating into your £20,000 a year. Also, if you think you've overpaid into your ISAs because you've got more than £20,000 across your accounts, it could actually be as a result of contributions from previous tax years. As your allowance resets at the start of every tax year, you may have built up a larger balance in your ISAs. But that's okay. Remember, it's only the money added in the current year that counts towards your allowance. Plus, any gains you make don't count towards the annual ISA cap either. So if you've earned interest on your cash ISA or returns on your investment ISA and increased your balance as a result, it's separate from your annual allowance. The best thing to do is to check your contributions across different ISAs for the current tax year to work out whether you've overpaid or not. But if you have overpaid into your ISA, it will need to be what HMRC calls repaired. Basically, some actions will need to be taken to undo your mistake and make sure you're not benefiting from the error. However, what happens next depends on when you've made the overpayment. So, if you've exceeded your ISA allowance in the current financial year, you should contact your provider as soon as you can. It would then be up to them to attempt to refund your overpayments to make sure you're back within your £20,000 annual allowance and remove any interest or returns you've earned when you shouldn't have. Or you can arrange for your investments to be kept, but just outside your ISA. If the overpayment was made in a previous tax year, you'll need to wait to hear from HMRC. It will work out how much you've overpaid by and how much tax you owe on your interest or profits. Now, I've seen conflicting advice about whether to withdraw the money you've overpaid yourself. HMRC has told me you can do this if you've made the overpayment in the current tax year, but it says something different online. So I wouldn't risk it, and I'd say it's probably best to speak to your provider first. And if you're unsure of what to do, you can always call HMRC on 0300 200 3300. This line is open Monday to Friday between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. and it's closed on weekends and bank holidays. Now, to finish off, I just want to quickly touch on what you might want to consider if you've used up your ISA allowance and still have cash to spare. Maybe you're a higher earner or have received a bonus from work. Now, there are lots of options, but they won't be right for everyone. So you'll need to have a think about your current financial situation and your overall goals too. But some things you could consider. One thing, making additional contributions to your pension. Now, this is a really tax efficient way of boosting your retirement savings, and you may also get more free money from your employer too. Another option, you might want to look at overpaying your mortgage to reduce how much you'll pay overall in interest, which could potentially save you thousands of pounds over the term. Or you could use your partner's various savings and investing allowances to be more tax efficient. You could also broaden your own approach to investing, or you could stick the money in premium bonds in the hope you win a decent tax free prize. Now, these are just a few ideas of what to do with excess cash, but you'd also need to make sure you've set aside 3 to 6 months savings as your emergency fund to cover any potential unexpected costs, and paying off expensive debts is a good idea too. You can focus on one of these things or take a combined approach and do a few. But do let us know how you get on. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you check out these videos for more ways to help you make the most of your money.